The following is a Cheeky Leprechaun production.
Pop culture is the entirety of ideas.
Me, Mario.
Let the bass kick.
I am the greatest.
Holy eggshell!
I am your father.
Episode 31 of the Pop Culture Experience. How y'all doing out there? I'm doing pretty good here. Big episode this week. There's been some massive news that broke that we're going to cover today with my guest Jack. You remember him from Tiger King, Super Bowl episode. We dive straight in to all things Crash Bandicoot, Michael Keaton's Batman. I get his vibe on Chicken Run 2, because if you remember Jack, he keeps going on about that era of animated films, especially Barnyard, big Barnyard guy. So when I saw the news of Chicken Run 2, I thought, let me get Jack in, because I want to throw that to him, see what his vibes are on that sequel that he's going to star Mel Gibson, interestingly enough. So yeah, some big topics today. We also get into The Last of Us 2, which has now been released. And you know me, that guy that's not a big gamer but into pop culture. So I find out a lot about the feedback, the backlash, I guess, on that film, and what Jack's take is on it from his experience playing and watching along with the storylines on some YouTube videos, and whether or not he thinks he's going to buy it for himself. So if you're a gamer, you'll enjoy that. There's plenty for everyone on this episode of the Pop Culture Experience. Not going to waste any time today, guys. We're going to dive straight in now to my chat with Jack. Jack.
Hello.
Hey, he's back in the house this time.
I'm back.
It's a bit more comfortable. Well, for me, because, let's be honest, last time I think you actually were saying how much more you preferred the Zoom version of our conversation because you got to be at your place. So I just realised this right now. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's okay. Did I say that? I don't even remember.
I believe when we did the Tiger King episode, there was a little underhanded comment I made the comment to you guys. I said, oh, you're probably more comfortable there. And you sort of started looking around your room being like, yes, I've got this, I've got that. Yeah, actually, this is fantastic. And then Justin was like, oh, he really doesn't like coming to your place.
Oh, no, I remember. You know, I didn't say I was more comfortable in my house for this. I was talking about like university and Zoom classes and stuff like that.
Okay.
Because I prefer just to wake up, turn on my computer, and that's it. I don't have to shower. I don't have to get on a train. I can just get up out of bed.
I'm also realising you sat down today and you said, yeah, it's been really good. I've got a new setup in my place. I've got a microphone. I've got the arm. And I'm like, oh shit. That was his way of being like,
stealing your brand.
Yeah, and also, I could have done this from home even better than what I did last time. Well, anyway, thanks for coming back, mate.
Thank you.
How you been? Good?
Yeah, not too bad.
Not too bad. I think, was the last one Tiger King?
Yes. Last one was Tiger King.
So it's been a couple episodes.
It has.
Yeah.
And last week was your 30th episode.
30th episode.
Oh, there you go.
I love making it to the benchmark of a 10, like whether it's 10, 20, 30.
It's like the volume, like when you turn up a volume, it's always got to be an even number. You can't have odd numbers.
Always. I could do 2s with volume. Like if I'm in the car.
Yeah.
Usually... See, Georgia will think, she feels like she's got the perfect volume in her car. She sits it on, I believe it's 18. And she thinks 18 is the optimal level where you can still have a conversation, but you can also sing along to a song.
I get that.
But I'm a 2 guy. It's got to be on the 2s.
So like 20s or...
No. It has to be sort of like 2, 4, 6, 8, rather than... It doesn't have to be at a 10. I don't have to have it on 10, 20. I could go 22. Couldn't do 21 volume level.
I used to work in 5s. So I used to go sort of 5, 10, 15.
I could see that.
So it was always either too quiet or too loud. So
I was about to say...
I adopted the 2 very quickly once I matured and realised I was being a pest to everyone in my house.
There's too much room. Between the 5s. Yeah. It's a stretch. So what else is news anyway?
Not too much. I've been getting into Last of Us 2 a bit, some gaming.
So that's out.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, that's out.
I've seen it plastered everywhere. It's another one of those games I would like to get into, but I think I've actually got it. I think my sister might have it somewhere, but
really?
Maybe I bought it for her at some point. I've never played it though. It's so post-apocalyptic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the zombie thing. And the first game came out, It was a few years. It was quite a while ago. It was on the PS3, and it was right around when the whole zombie apocalypse thing was still a bit fresh. Like now, it's sort of a bit
Sort of like Walking Dead era of the TV show.
Exactly right. And it was like merited on how great the writing was for the story. Everyone sort of said it's got a lot of heart and it's a really nice story. And then this sequel that's just come out, people are calling it the Last Jedi of video games.
It's no good, or it's at least a bit decisive.
The critics have said it's great, and the fans not so much.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Have you played it yourself?
I haven't played the second one. I've been watching world's most subscribed YouTuber PewDiePie play it.
He's a flog, isn't he? Don't we not like him?
I like him.
You like him?
All right, yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought there was a bit of controversy.
There was a bit of controversy, but he's owned it.
There's controversy everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so you've watched it play out.
I've watched a fair chunk of it play out, and I can see why people are not too happy. First of all, the game itself looks magnificent.
Okay.
It is the most beautiful game.
Gameplay's good.
Oh, gameplay's fun, and
So
it
it's
looks
the
great.
story.
It's the story. It's the writing where they've lost it.
So, I could be wrong. But last week, I had Liam, who you also know, on the
Yes.
show, and we're talking a lot about online gaming. I
Yes.
assume this isn't a game that you would play online. This is a narrative-based game where
Yeah.
you just play the storyline. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's no online
I
form.
think there might. I don't want to say anything
Or
because
at
I
least
don't know
it's
100%.
At least it's not why you would
it's
buy the game.
predominantly a story game. There's 30 hours of gameplay in this second
Okay.
one. So
30 hours.
there's a
wow.
lot. It's a heavy game to get into, that's for sure.
It's interesting that they haven't stuck the landing because they've had a fair while to work on it. It seems anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, did you say PS3?
PS3
the original,
was the
and then they
original one came out.
remastered for PS4. I assume?
Yeah. So I've got
Okay.
the first game on PS4 and I've played that, but
Yeah.
I haven't played the sequel because I haven't got around to purchasing it yet. But it's interesting that it's again one of those situations where the critics love it and the fans are just not happy with it.
Well, it begs that question, which applies to everything, which applies to Star Wars, The Last Jedi, as you said. The idealizing fans can do in their head of a certain thing, like especially a memory when you've stumbled across The Last of Us, which was this game that was really highly regarded when it first came out because it was almost like it broke the mold, I assume.
Yeah,
for that sort of,
it was sort of groundbreaking when it first came. Exactly right. Yeah.
So to then have those expectations placed on any follow-up, you're going to have years to come up in your mind with what you think the game should be.
Yeah, exactly.
And then no matter what gets delivered, it's going to be
It's gonna
underwhelming.
be disappointing.
So
I think, but it's so because that's to be expected. Like you can never necessarily it's hard to get something that's better than the original. But it's been done where you can at least say it is as good as or pretty equal with the original. But people are really just hating on this game.
I always think that as putting myself in that situation, I always feel that even in the best of situations where people have gone, oh, I really love this sequel, this is one of the rare good follow-ups, I still think I'm that person that will go, yeah, it was good. It still wasn't as good as the first one.
Yeah, but it's no original. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm always on that front foot with being one of the people to go, yeah, it just didn't quite recapture the magic of the original.
Yeah.
Even like Deadpool, that was really well received, the second one.
Yeah.
And I still think back to that movie as the opening just took forever.
Yeah.
Remember they did that really long James Bond-esque intro.
Oh yeah. See the thing about that too is the sequel for me is so forgettable. I couldn't even. I'm struggling to picture the part you're talking about. I know what it is. It's like the part where he sort of blows himself up. Isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. See, and to your point, I'm not really sure if I can remember what the narrative. Oh no, it had like a rough X-Men connection, didn't it?
Yeah, because it's like cable and time travel and stuff.
Wasn't as memorable as the
No,
first one.
exactly right.
But again, it comes back to being when it's got to follow something that is so groundbreaking. Deadpool was groundbreaking for comic book movies.
Exactly.
So that's interesting. Are you gonna buy it still?
I think
Holy
I
shit.
will.
But the hesitation is amazing because I imagine before this you couldn't wait.
Yeah, I was pretty keen for it, like it because I had seen trailers for it and it looked beautiful.
Yeah.
I was never really invested in the Last of Us story, but I with the way that they've written this sequel, I can see why so many people are angry.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to spoil anything or anything, but like essentially the game is split into two parts.
Let's go. All right, if you're going to play it, there's going to be a couple spoilers just here that might impact you, just so
Yes.
you can speak freely. So,
Okay, I will speak freely.
yeah.
I'll get into it.
Skip forward a minute. Okay? Let's
Okay.
give you a minute just to go through this.
Okay.
All right.
So, first game is about Joel and Ellie. Joel is an older man who, at the start of the apocalypse, his daughter dies, and sort of 20 years into the apocalypse, he is a smuggler, and these people come to him with this young girl who is immune to the zombie virus.
Yep.
And they need to get her across the country to this place where they can try and work out a cure.
Okay.
Game plays out, and it's sort of this bonding story. It's got a lot, like that's why it's got a lot of heart, because it's about this young girl and this older man that's sort of protector, and they're traveling across the country, sort of fighting off zombies, stuff like that. And they get to this place, and they're talking about making a cure with all these doctors. The doctors say the only way to do it is to kill her, and
Yep.
Joel says no, and he
Won't do it.
and he kills all the hospital work, like everyone, like this whole
Wow.
armada of people.
Yep.
And he takes her away while she's unconscious and drives her away and says, sorry, there's no cure. So just like lied to her.
And that's how it ends.
And that's how it ends. It's
Okay.
real ambiguous about whether or not she told the truth or not.
Yep.
Come into the sequel, and some time has passed. Ellie's a lot older, and so is Joel. And there's this new character, this sort of mysterious new character you're playing as. And for the first 2 hours, you're sort of jumping between playing as Ellie and playing as this new character named Abby. And you're sort of not quite sure what Abby's deal is. And yeah, about 3 hour mark into the game or whatever, they cross paths with Joel. So Abby and Joel meet up. And then suddenly, Abby shoots Joel in the knee with a shotgun and beats up her brother. And then you're like, oh my God, what is happening? And then you switch back to Ellie and you play as Ellie for a while, and you get to save Joel just as Abby kills Joel, the main character of the first game that everybody loved, within the first 3 hours of a 30-hour game. Then, for the rest of the game, you play...
God, I hope no, but I hope we haven't gone over a minute and people have come back
People
in.
have tuned in
And,
now.
as you've said that, bang, spoiler. Okay.
And then... So you hate this Abby character who you haven't been given any logical reason why she's killed the best character in the game. And then for 12 hours you play as Ellie trying to get revenge on Abby. And then it switches in the second half of the game you're playing as Abby, as the character that you hate the most. And
Yeah, why you would at this point not like her? you would
exactly.
think.
And they do explain why. They try and give you some empathy towards her, but
So are people annoyed that obviously the favorite character's been killed off, but beside that, they've also turned you against what your second favorite character would have
Exactly.
been. So suddenly everything you loved about the first game has been taken away from you.
yeah.
So that's where the frustration sort of
Yeah,
lies.
it is. And
Wow.
it's
Okay.
the whole story is essentially sort of how the cycle of violence, and what I think they're trying to go for is how, seeking revenge doesn't fulfill anything. Like it leaves you with nothing, blah, blah, blah. Because that's essentially the whole point of the game. And it sort of culminates in this
So
sort
there's
of
trying to be life
melancholy,
lessons.
this melancholy lesson about how seeking revenge and using violence to get even is never the way to go. But it doesn't, and it makes it seem like these choices you've made are really like impactful and hard, but the game doesn't give you the choice.
Yeah.
It's like, this is your mission, and it's not, how there's been those games where you can pick the right or the wrong thing to do, and it can weigh on how the game plays.
Yeah.
This is none of that. It's just, this is how we want you to be the bad guy, and this is how you're going to do it. Whether you like it or not, you have to play the game right, or you're going to fail. So it's a bizarre move by them, and I don't quite understand why they've gone about it.
Especially when you kind of feel like with any of these games, you could, like, what? This could kill the franchise.
Exactly. And the thing that I don't understand is they have flashback moments where you play as a younger Ellie and Joel again, sort of as they're bonding sort of between the first and the second game.
Yeah.
And those segments of the game are great because they take you back to the first game. You feel the warmth and sort of heart in the game.
Yeah, okay.
but the whole rest of the game, the whole actual game, I suppose, is just meh.
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 Wow, for an anticipated game, that's not ideal.
No, it's not.
I wonder what their sales will be like.
I think they did pretty well at first, but I imagine it's starting to die off now, and people are not happy.
Well, I hadn't heard this until you walked in today.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess
there
if
there might be a more casual gamer who's just like, oh, I like the first
apparently
one.
this was meant to be really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'll give it a go. Well, that takes me to actually a game I am very excited by.
Naughty Dog too. Just so you know, it's made by the same.
Well, there you go. Because
the originals were made by.
So that's the same company.
Naughty Dog made the original Crash Bandicoot games.
Yeah, and they've made Last of Us.
And they've made The Last of Us because they're sort of dedicated to Sony, so they're PlayStation all the way.
Oh, okay.
So The Last of Us is a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah. Do you know if they're still making the new thing, which is the latest Crash Bandicoot?
They are not.
They're not?
No. So Naughty Dog,
Ooh,
Naughty Dog made Crash Bandicoot 1, Crash
Yep.
Bandicoot
Don't say 2 and 3.
It's
Yeah, cool.
Cortex. What's the sequel?
Is it Cortex Strikes Back or
Strikes
something?
Back, and then
Yeah.
the third one is Warped.
Yeah.
And then they also made Crash Team Racing.
Shit, so they made all the good ones.
They made the 4 good ones. And then because they were owned by, I want to say Paramount.
Oh, no. This is
Or Universal or
concerning
something?
information.
Because there's 15 different Crash Bandicoot games or something.
Well, there's a few, and they fell off after a while.
They varied in quality. Yes.
Put it this way: for a long time, up until the re-release of the 3
the
initial
Insane trilogy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, wait, there was other Crash Bandicoots?
Yeah.
Like, I thought these were it.
Yeah.
That says a lot because I was a big Crash Bandicoot guy. Never knew about the rest of them, and still to this day, like I've looked them up, they don't have nearly as much traction or as
No.
much
Oh,
pop culture relevance
absolutely
as
not.
what those original trilogy and Crash Team Racing did.
Because they tried to change the formula too much. That was
So-
a big problem, I think.
What did they do with those other games? Did they ever attempt that open world format?
They did, and
Yeah.
that's what let them down.
Interesting.
And here's the interesting thing: I like that idea. Like it's a good idea to step up the game's quality, but I think it's the way because they did it in. I got to think of the name. I think it's Twin Sanity or something. I think it's called.
I do remember.
where they're sort of Neo Cortex and Crash are like linked together or something. You sort of have a bit of a co-op type thing where you've got to play together and complete challenges as 2 separate people.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of an open world, but I think they went too hard on the open world. I think with a mix of the sort of because it's 2D, 3D platforming is the essential idea of Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
And then the open world can work in moderation, but I think they just went too hard on it when they first brought it out. And it seemed like every game was like, well, what if we do it this way, or what if we do it this way? And it's just like, just stick to the formula.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what makes it so enjoyable is the formula. Like
Yeah.
that's what makes Crash Bandicoot what it is. And it was funny. It's funny you should say that because I said once this new trailer was released, which Crash Bandicoot, It's About Time or
It's
something.
about time, yeah.
When it came out and I saw it and I was like, oh shit, I'm actually nervous to hit play on it because I went in concerned that are they going to attempt too much here? Like, are they going to try and change things?
Yeah.
Obviously, they've already done that, but I was unaware, as I think a lot of people are. I did go into that trailer thinking, God, I hope they don't attempt like an open world format here.
Yeah.
That would be pretty crap. Doesn't look like that's
No,
what they've done.
apparently
It looks,
they've done it well.
It looks very traditional to
It
what
does.
you would like, and it even looks like they've brought back a lot of the classic levels from those initial games, like where Crash is underwater with one of
The
those
little-
shooter things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that sort of stuff all returns, all just with different stories and different elements to the levels, and obviously the graphics are
Yeah.
really good too. But I don't know, throughout this whole quarantine period, I went through a huge Crash Bandicoot
Oh,
phase
really?
because what else have we had to do?
Yeah,
Not much.
No, that's true.
And I'm admittedly not the biggest of gamers, and neither is Georgia, but her brother is right into it, and his girlfriend she's sort of more like us. And we're all sitting around, we're like, oh, let's bust out a game we'll all enjoy and we could all play. and that was Crash
Crash
Bandicoot, because it sort of
Bandicoot.
took you back to that fun, like...
Because you're at
like a
the right
kid
you're at
again.
the right age where it was coming out right as you were like
Yeah.
getting into video games.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
I was a bit later to it. So I remember, I think my first experience playing Crash Bandicoot was remember when you'd like go to like a restaurant or like a bistro, and they'd have the playground next to the games room where it was like a TV in a box and the controller was strapped to the wall.
Yes, and it was
that's-
like in
and
a
I would,
screen,
and I would play Crash Bandicoot there.
How funny was that? The remote attached to the actual
It's a
wall,
big,
and you had
on
to
a big
stand
metal
there.
rod, and you'd had to stand there awkwardly holding the controller.
Well, that probably would have been it, because they would have been... When I remember that happening, they were like PlayStation 1s. I
Yeah.
think that's what they were. They were the
Yeah.
grey remotes.
Yeah.
What was your first console?
PlayStation 2, my first console was.
Okay.
So
That was... PlayStation 2 was a black one, wasn't it?
You could get it black, silver. You could get it.
Okay.
I think it came out initially as black, and then
that's right,
silver
PS2,
was like the Supreme Edition or something. I can't remember what it was called, but it's the better version.
Yeah. It's so funny to think back to those games, because the first one I had was PS1.
Yeah.
And I had this friend in primary school where he had another version of the PS1. There was a couple different versions of it. And he had this
yeah.
Star Wars game. And
Ooh.
to me, at that time, you might even know what it was. I couldn't sit here and tell you what the game was. But I just remember playing that thinking, this is like we're in the movie. We would play that now and we would laugh at it.
Yeah.
Because it would be so,
so
dreadful.
janky
It would
and,
be
like,
so
weird and-
terrible. It's come a very long way. So I'm very excited for Crash Bandicoot, because that's the sort of thing that gets me out there buying a game
Yeah.
and sitting there for hours playing it, which is hard to do for me.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's one positive game we've got coming,
Yes.
and then the other not so positive, The Last of Us 2. Interesting.
What I found interesting is the people that did the sort of Insane Trilogy remake are not making, or the ones that did, Insane Trilogy and the new Crash Team Racing
Yes.
have not made this new game.
Yeah. So why
It's
is
a
that?
new studio. I get really confused about the politics of all of this, but apparently through its whole run, it's constantly had different developers making it. Like there's never been, because essentially Naughty Dog was bought by Sony, but they didn't necessarily own the character of Crash Bandicoot.
Okay.
Crash Bandicoot was owned by, I think it was Paramount or something,
Yep.
some obscure movie studio. And they were obsessed with making more games, but they every time a game would come out and wasn't so successful, and that game developer had started on a second game, halfway through making that second game, the studio would be like, no, here's a different developer, you make it now.
Okay.
Get this other person out. So that's why games were so bad in that sort of middle period, was because they were constantly changing developers.
Yeah.
And the whole like direction of the game would change, and it was just a disaster, and sort of development times got shorter, and it got harder to make decent games. And the same thing, I don't know if the same thing's happening now or what's going on.
Well,
But they're
I would
changing
like
a
to
lot.
know who made the remaster. Who did all the remastering of the Crash trilogy when that was brought back out? Because I would have assumed that was the original developer.
Nah.
Okay.
They were given access to the original codes for
Yeah.
the games, but they weren't the original developer, because Naughty Dog have moved on. They don't even look at Crash Bandicoot anymore.
All right, well, that gives me more hope. If it's maybe, and it might not be, hopefully it's the same people that brought us the remaster of the trilogy. So they're at least,
Yeah.
they've had some success in the world of Crash, even if they didn't create the story. It is interesting, though, you say Paramount. Why the hell haven't we had a Crash Bandicoot movie?
That's a good question.
I mean, we're in a world of Sonic.
Yeah, it might happen.
It might happen.
Because Crash Bandicoot has always been sort of the unofficial mascot of Sony. Like, but here's the weird thing: Nintendo owns. Who owns Sonic? Sega.
Yep.
Sega owns Sonic, so Sega made the movie, whereas Sony doesn't own Crash Bandicoot. So
True.
So if you make a Crash Bandicoot game without reference to Sony
Yeah.
and PlayStation, it'd probably be a bit weird. So maybe they'll work out a deal.
I would like to see a
Hollywood
Crash movie.
Hollywood is a wonderful place.
I know, and we're getting all sorts of things that the fans want to see these days. Now, it leads me to my next
Oh,
point.
here we go.
All right, settle in.
Okay.
Now, we're in a group inbox, right? And
Yes.
news broke the other day, which sparked a reaction from you, which I wasn't sure if I'd get. I was kind of like, how across this will this group of people be? Because the news broke that Michael Keaton, Batman, arguably the original Batman, or the original movie Batman. I'm Batman. Yeah, it's so great. Is returning as Bruce Wayne Batman in the Flash film.
Yes.
Now, your response to this news. This blew up the internet. It was
a big deal.
This is quite possibly the biggest Batman news
I've
seen ever.
I saw it coming, I'm not going to lie.
Talk to me. Why?
Because I remember he made that movie Birdman, and it was about an actor who played a superhero and then could never escape it and grew to hate it.
Yep.
But
so that's why I thought he would never do it again.
But see, in all the promos, I swear I remember him talking very fondly of Batman and saying how, as much as this character was like, it's sort of born out of hatred for being remembered as only a superhero, he still really enjoys his Batman and stuff like that.
Okay.
And there was a few like clips of him sort of, I can't remember what it was, but yeah.
Talking fondly about the experience.
about being Batman. And then, what was it? Then he did Spider-Man.
Vulture.
Yep. So he's creeping back into the
world of superheroes,
the blockbuster superhero movies. So it'll be interesting. And here's the thing as well. I saw it coming as well because of what the CW have been doing in their TV shows.
And the success of it.
Exactly.
Explain what they've done for people who might not be familiar.
So the CW, they have made shows such as Arrow, which follows Green Arrow. They've made The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and I think the new one they've made is Stargirl.
Yeah, Stargirl. I think Black Lightning might exist in that world
Black
too.
Lightning.
There's they've created a whole universe.
Yeah, but here's the thing: all of those movies, all of those TV shows, the only two that ever were considered part of the same world were The Flash and Arrow. And when The Flash and Arrow and Supergirl started picking up, they really brought in this multiverse type thing where you could jump to different worlds using the Speed Force for the Flash and stuff like that. And there was lots of different versions of reality that they played with that were sort of comic book nods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
a lot of fan service.
So much fan service. Yeah. Sometimes it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
But what they did was, I believe it was Crisis on Infinite Earths, I want to say, where they did a big crossover event with all the shows, and they brought basically anyone that they could throw money at to come back and reprise their iconic superhero roles.
So
for example,
in that story, that consisted of Flash crossing through the different the multiverse. So he'd cross into Earth 2, Earth 3. Did they approach it in that sense? Where
here's the funny thing. Okay, because
if that doesn't make sense in the comics, Flash he broke the time speed continuum. Is that how you?
I suppose that's
is that
the way
the
to
rough?
put it.
Yeah,
yeah. So it works.
Flash is so fast that he crosses in.
He can vibrate at different frequencies that other worlds occupy. I think is
that the way to?
I think that's the way to look at it, because how it's explained in the show is, as much as there is a multiverse, all of the worlds are sitting in the same location, but they're just vibrating at different frequencies.
So things are happening at the same time.
But different. So you can. It's like how they sometimes explain like a ghost walking by, or sort of a mirage or something, that you're getting a glimpse of an alternate reality that's sort of vibrating at a different frequency, stuff like that.
The easiest one to explain, to summarize this, is in one of these different. In a different version of the multiverse, Bruce Wayne dies in Crime Alley with his mum, and Thomas Wayne, his father, survives.
Correct.
Thomas Wayne becomes Batman.
And Martha Wayne becomes the Joker.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, it's just Bruce Wayne that dies.
Yeah.
And Martha Wayne and Thomas Wayne survive. I
they
totally
become
forgot.
enemies.
They become enemies after the death of their son. I totally forgot Martha Wayne becomes Joker. That is such a great story.
Oh, I know.
It's fantastic.
Brilliant.
But that's what this allows, is this ability to tell such a variety of stories without really having to have them make sense in the same world. It unlocks the multiverse.
Exactly.
So
and that makes it really exciting, because they they can retcon the Justice League if they want and just say, oh, it was just a different world.
Yeah.
And then they can bring back Henry Cavill as Superman, because I don't know if you heard, but I watched the news this morning and he's talking about he's nowhere near hanging up the cape. He's staying in it for as long as he can.
Yeah, they reckon he's keen to stay around in it, which is good because I think he's a really good Superman. It's interesting because for everything Marvel has and the success that it's brought them, which is their whole MCU, it's really the only option DC and Warner Brothers have as a trump card.
Yeah,
how do you...
You cannot top Marvel unless you create multiple universes.
They've shown all they can do is this. They can't really create a cohesive universe like what Marvel have done that makes sense. It flows really well. What they can do is tell individual stories really well. We've had Aquaman, we've had Wonder Woman, but then we've had Joker, and we're getting the Batman, which aren't exactly... They're already said. They said, these are in different universes. Bang, Flashpoint unlocks this whole thing, and then suddenly we're just accepting of, oh shit, that's right, now we're getting a movie with Michael Keaton's Batman where he is, the mentor to Batman Beyond, or whatever.
Exactly. And it's a fascinating thing because essentially what the TV shows did, the CW did, is after this Crisis on Infinite Earths thing, they basically said that this disaster that has occurred has destroyed every other Earth, and now there is Earth Prime. And what that has made them able to do is they're able to bring all of their heroes together into one Earth.
Yep.
So instead of having to have these sort of crossover events, they can still all coexist on one Earth and sort of cross paths a little more casually and a little more comfortably.
Do you
without
think they
them
do
having
that
to
in the
explain Earth jump? I think they might. Because here's the thing. It's always been a possibility. I think studios have just been scared that audiences wouldn't grasp it. Because they're constantly stressing that this is a different universe, this is a different Batman, this is like
everything needs to make sense.
They're really stressed about making it clear to the audience that these things are happening not at the same time, not in a. And obviously, there's a lot of people's headcanon is that these are happening in the same universe but different Earths kind of thing.
Yes.
So it's that weird thing of, I think, and once they saw the CW could actually succeed at grasping this thing and audiences not being like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That it's more comfortable for them to enjoy it, I think.
I think that comes from comic books too. I think people, outsiders, I did, and I still do to a degree, but I understand far more now than I did, let's say 5+ years ago. I'd look at comic books and go, oh, I'd love to read them, but it's so messy. Like, where do I get in?
There's so much,
Am I reading this in the correct timeline? Like, is this a different timeline? It's funny, though, because what you say about the CW series, I was listening to Kevin Smith was talking about this, and he was saying, thank God Keaton held out on the CW, because you know they approached him. You know they tried to get Keaton.
Because they got the reporter. You remember the reporter
That's
from
right.
the 89
there was
Batman?
the nod to the 89 Batman.
Yeah. And this is what worries me. This is what worries me about the Keaton Batman announcement.
Yep.
Is when the CW did this and they announced they were bringing back all these big heroes and big stars, and they sort of teased at it. Yeah, you're going to get someone from Batman 89 and someone from the 60s Batman and some Teen Titans and stuff like that. And like Lucifer and like all these random CW shows and other DC properties. But it was literally a montage at the start of the show that was they got like 3 seconds of someone and then moved on. And it was like Earth 89 was the reporter sitting on a bench reading his comic book, and then
so it's these
and
little
then
nods
Earth
rather
66 and it's Burt Ward and he looks up at the sky and goes, "Holy eggshells!" But whatever he says,
it's you're worried that it might not be as much of a narrative participation of
just
Michael
a cameo,
Keaton. Well, the report is that it's not going to be a one-off. The report is that he is going to have a contract moving forward with DC Films to appear as more of a Nick Fury character. So apparently that's the description.
So almost like the Batman Beyond, sort of like the older mentor kind of.
That's the impression. I mean, at the end of the day, Michael Keaton's old.
Yes,
so
they could do it.
But the impression is that he is, being that Nick Fury character, he is going to appear throughout numerous films.
Right.
So it does. Already, it sounds like moving forward with somewhat of a structured universe again in terms of trying to tie things together. If you're bringing back Keaton to do multiple things, it starts making you wonder, how are they going to tie all this in? Are they going to attempt a Batman Beyond?
Yeah, that's interesting. They might.
There was a lot of talk for a while that, and I don't think this to be the case, but let's just unlock our imaginations
All
for
right,
a second.
yeah.
The Batman
Mm-hmm.
with Robert Pattinson,
Yes.
Batman Beyond.
Also, he is Batman Beyond. He is the Batman Beyond.
Imagine that
the
Keaton
Batman.
turned up in that. This was all spoken about a long time ago. It's since pretty much been proven inaccurate.
Yeah.
But
Oh, interesting.
yeah, imagine
Bruce Wayne Jr.
Well, have you ever seen Batman Beyond?
The animated series, yeah.
Yeah. So there's been a calling for that for a long time, and Keaton to be the Batman in it. And
I think that would make a great... Even if they did it as a TV show, I'd watch it.
And imagine, because that series starts with Batman in the cape and cowl. I think there is this...
him realizing he's too old for this shit.
Yeah. There is a desire, especially for me, to see Keaton in the Batsuit again.
Yeah.
I want it. I want it,
yeah.
and I want it to be his Batsuit.
With the big rubber neck that he has to do the whole...
Oh, yeah. The head...
the whole
turn
body
and
turn.
I love it. The black and yellow Batman symbol. It'd be great. But there's been a lot of speculation about how they bring him in Flashpoint. So in this world where Flash is going between different multiverse settings, I think there's now talk that maybe he will be the Batman. Have you read Flashpoint, first of all, the comic?
I did, but ages ago.
Yeah.
Like a long time ago. So I know it, but not to finite detail.
Yeah, no, okay. So the general gist is Flash at one point crosses into a different part of the multiverse. He meets Thomas Wayne as Batman.
Yeah.
And then he crosses back in at the very end to...
Oh, and he hands the letter.
He hands the note from Thomas Wayne to his son, Bruce Wayne, back in the other part of the multiverse.
Yes.
And you see Batman in the Batcave in his Batsuit, and he reads this note from his dad. There's word that could maybe be where Keaton appears for the first time in the Batsuit.
I heard an interesting theory.
Go on. I'd love to hear it.
The same thing plays out with the letter, but instead it's signed by Martha, right? Stick with me
No, I'm
here.
listening.
Signed by Martha.
Instead
so you've
of
got
Thomas,
you've got the word Martha at the bottom
Oh,
signed.
God. We're getting another Martha reference.
And he goes back and hands it to
Don't.
Ben Affleck
Don't.
before Batman v Superman. So that sort of it doesn't necessarily give them a pass for having the weird sort of Martha save Martha, but it could be a nice little sort of. That's why it's such an impactful moment, is because he receives the letter from Martha before this happens.
God, can you imagine the backlash on that? Don't try and justify it. It was stupid when you did it. Look, they've got a history of not wanting to stick accurately to comic books. They like to try and find a film twist on things. They've done it in the Nolan films with Bane. They've done a few different things, but
I think the CW has shown that it works. And if the CW had more of a budget, it wouldn't look so janky.
Do you think CW characters appear in the film? Like,
Possibly.
do you think Grant Gustin's Flash appears in this take on...
I hope so.
Well,
Because Ezra Miller appeared in
Yeah.
the TV series.
and that was during Flashpoint.
That was
one of those...
Oh no, that was during the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Crisis.
Because they did Flashpoint a long time ago. And they did it sort of like a one episode weird, obscure
in just the Flash.
in just
the
the
TV
Flash.
series,
So it was like he went back and saved his mother from being killed, and it just turned it. It wasn't that good, but then they sort of played with other story elements of that in different crossover events. So they never really stuck to this is Flashpoint and then this is not. It was always like there's elements of it here and there. Because the interesting thing that happened in the CW is they went from the standard display view, I guess you would call it, of like a TV show, that when he passes into this sort of bit where he meets Ezra Miller, it goes into more of a cinematic
Interesting
view on
Okay.
the screen, like sort of more letterboxed or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
where it's a wide screen.
So they're wanting to give it that film
feeling.
because they're super protective.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a reason why you don't see Batman really in a TV show.
in
There's
the
no
Batwoman
Batman TV
shows,
series.
yeah.
Yeah. So you get the spin-offs of how can we do Batman stories without it being Batman. So you
Yeah.
get Batwoman or you get Batgirl, whatever.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see them let Ezra Miller's Flash appear in a TV series,
know.
especially given that there's a film in the works with him. It's not like
I
the
think,
character's
but
done.
I think that's what I think they've done it on purpose to build
Well,
hype.
now it makes sense.
It does.
Now it makes sense because, well, hell, why can't you throw that exact scene into the
movie.
Flashpoint movie, especially if it's shot
Oh,
in cinematic,
shit.
and suddenly you're like, holy crap, this was all happening.
It was a different color grade. It was a very obscure, like DC-esque color graded scene.
The point is
weird.
that
It could
everything
fit in the
now
movie.
is unlocked.
Yes.
With everything that DC have done up until this point, it can either be pushed to the side, it can be, yeah, this exists, but look over here, this also is happening. Like, it doesn't excuse bad things, but it allows
More.
It allows you to turn a blind eye to certain things.
Yes.
Oh, that wasn't really for me, but guess what? This actually is really like this
I
aspect.
like
Let's
this
follow
Earth.
this. The same way that you look at Marvel in that you go, Thor, not really for me. Don't mind him when he turns up in Avengers. But then later on, they do Thor Ragnarok, and you're like, oh, now I like this. I can jump back on.
Yeah.
You can sort of pick up things, run with them.
It's like, yeah, it's really, the movies are becoming more and more like the comic books where you can pick and choose what comic book series you like, what comic book series you want to read. Maybe a sort of a character arc in some series that you're not a fan of, so you just don't read that.
And you jump in and out of it.
Exactly.
So, like, I read all of Scott Snyder's Batman, and then he jumped off the book, and I was like, I haven't jumped back on it yet. I'll
Yeah.
get to it, but then I'll leave it there for a while. I'll go and have a look at this for a bit.
Exactly.
And then you come back to it later. It's exciting.
It is.
I'm excited to see, because this is going to be, like what they've been doing to this point, DC and Warner Brothers, they've very much handed the reins back over to the filmmakers.
Yes.
And they're going, here's everything. Do what you want with it. Come up
Yeah.
with a good idea. Michael Keaton coming back as Batman, that's a storyteller. That is a director or a screenwriter going to Warner Brothers saying, look, I got this idea.
Let's do this.
What do you think of this? And then them going, we'll make the call. We don't mind that. That's not Warner Brothers sitting
Shut
there
up
going,
and take our money.
Yeah, take all my money. That's not Warner Brothers sitting there going, let's get Michael Keaton back involved. It's 31 years since he first appeared
Yeah.
as Batman. Like, that is a creative person saying, I've got an idea. I'm all for it.
Yeah. It'll be cool.
I've got another sequel for you. And this was why you came to mind and I said, I've got to get him on. This is what I feel is in your wheelhouse. With the way you've carried on this podcast before
Okay.
about a certain animated film.
I'm scared.
What's your favourite animated film that you kept talking to me about for so long?
Oh, Barnyard. Is Barnyard getting a sequel?
No.
Ah, shit.
No. But
Why would you do that to me? I got all excited. More male cows with udders. Oh, it would have been great.
having known this about you, your fascination with Barnyard and that sort of... You come from
I know what you're talking about.
You come from a
I've got it.
different
I've worked it
era
out.
of animation than what I did growing
Yes.
up. I was very Lion King, those sort of Disney films. You had this fantastic,
Cheap.
cheaper generation just ahead of mine where
Ever seen
you...
Hoodwinked? Cheap.
Well, I want to talk to you about Chicken Run.
Chicken Run. See, the first Chicken Run. Oh, wow. I love the
knew that
first
this-
Chicken Run. I don't want to be a pie.
Here's the thing. I think I might have seen it once, but I don't really remember it. But was this something that when you were growing up, this was big?
I've got the DVD, bro. It's good. It's a great
So
movie.
you saw Chicken Run 2 announcement. Were you excited?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
No, but I am, because I'm fascinated to see what the hell they're going to do.
I'm fascinated that Mel Gibson, one, was the voice in the original
Yeah,
of Rocky.
of
That's the
Rocky.
main character.
Rocky the
First of all,
Rooster.
when I saw this movie, I wouldn't have been aware that there was famous people doing the voices.
Oh,
of
me
these.
either.
No. So fast forward 20 years. 20 years.
Is it 20 years?
2000 that came out. Fast forward 20 years, and I find out Mel Gibson's coming back and I was thinking, holy shit, people still want Mel Gibson for work? Holy crap, that is, especially in a children's animated film.
So what, Rocky's just going to be an alcoholic now? Is that
Yeah,
what's
and
gonna happen?
anti-Semite.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Just saying racial
Yeah.
slurs everywhere. It's no good. Yeah, so, okay, I wanted to gauge your opinion. Before we finish up, I just wanted to get an idea. Chicken Run, good thing, bad thing that we're getting a sequel?
It's good, I guess. It's hard to... It's like when they did... what's that? Wallace and Gromit?
Yeah.
Like, that was quite an old... Similar sort of animation with the
Very
sort of
similar
stop
animation.
motion stuff or whatever it is. And they did one that was like a reboot like years and years later or whatever. Or they were constantly making them just sort of very spaced out. And they're just not that memorable.
Okay.
Like, there's nothing that's like, oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
It's like even Chicken Run. Like, it's not really a classic, is it?
Well, it is enough that as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, Chicken Run, I remember that movie. Looked up the poster and I was like, oh, I definitely remember that movie. Funny you say it, because the first thing I said was, oh, it's got that Wallace and Gromit type animation. Yeah, that's right. I always found that animation to be a little bit scary.
It is quite,
It's
off.
bleak.
It's like, I remember watching the Wallace and Gromit. It's called Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And that used to scare the shit out of me.
Oh, it sounds scary.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the
horrifying.
idea of it. All right, so Chicken Run 2. I just had to get a little taste of where you were at, given your Barnyard. Hey, isn't Barnyard sort of a cheap animation?
Barnyard is very cheap. I won't lie.
Look at you. You're so protective of Barnyard.
No, it's absolute shit. I'm not gonna lie.
What was your
terrible.
biggest issue? That the male
cows. This is the second time I'm bringing it up on this podcast.
And
the
I love
male cows have udders. Why is that?
I'm not even sure. Yeah, because is a male
cow is a
bull?
bull. So why can you milk a bull? You can't milk a bull.
Yeah, no, you can't. You can't. It's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to bring? Maybe unbarnyard related. Anything else you got? Anything you'd like to recommend? Maybe before we finish up.
Oh God.
You watched anything? You played anything? You
That's
listened
tough.
to anything? Have you read anything?
I can't read.
No, see, few people I have on this read. Pop culture's changed too
What
much.
do you think I am?
Why would we read when we can watch?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything? You watched anything?
No, you're not going to lie. This quarantine, I have been very unproductive with my pop culture interest, I suppose. I just haven't... It's like you talked about last week, and people have been recommending me shows, and I've just been like,
I'll get to it.
yeah, I'm just not really...
Have you bought any new Star Wars memorabilia lately?
Have I?
What was the last thing you bought?
I think the last thing I bought...
Because you're big
Well, there's
into this.
two
I
things.
love it.
I'm constantly getting orders in.
Okay.
Like, constantly getting shipments in.
Has there been an increase during quarantine with online shopping?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
At the start there was, and
Talk to me.
then I started running out of money. I was like, maybe not.
I love it.
But the two most recent things I got, I can't remember which came first, but I bought them around the same time.
Yep.
A replica pair of Han Solo's yellow driving gloves. You remember those? They're in the movies very briefly, so they're a very obscure prop. But I bought a replica pair of those, and they're just a bit of fun.
And do you wear them for
I
driving?
wear them. No, not for driving. I put them on, and I was like,
You sit around for a while.
yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I took them off and put them on the shelf.
Yep.
And then I also bought
How much does that cost?
They were $60.
Oh, fuck, I thought you were going to say 600. Jesus. Okay,
Well,
that's fine.
because they're
$60,
they're
cool.
made by a leather company who charge big bucks.
Yeah.
But I got them on eBay because I'm a cheapskate.
No, nothing wrong with that. I've been big in the eBay lately. Okay, so that's one thing. And what was the other thing?
And the other thing was a replica Qui-Gon Jinn lightsaber hilt. Qui-Gon Jinn being Liam Neeson's Jedi.
Okay,
who
good.
dies
Thank you for mainstreaming that.
who
for me.
dies in The Phantom Menace.
Yep.
Gets stabbed by Maul.
Okay.
And yeah, I bought his lightsaber hilt.
Lightsaber hill, is that the...
That's just the handle.
That's the handle?
That's the handle.
The lightsaber handle. I love it. Isn't it funny? There can be such different lengths of fandom in
Yeah.
everything. Like, I like Star Wars, but the lightsaber handle, yeah? Like, is that... Oh, okay, cool. Same thing.
The light stick. The stick.
The stick that you hold when you swing the lightsaber. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Very good, mate. I'm glad to hear that you're having a productive quarantine with buying things. Maybe watch something, though. Bring something to the table
All
next
right,
time
fine.
you
I
watch.
will.
Thanks for coming back, mate. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
So there you go, episode 31, done and dusted. Some good stuff there, some excitement about Keaton as Batman and the DC universe of films and where we can take that. Maybe you learned something along the way, like I did about The Last of Us 2, Part 2, I think they call it. I think the kids are calling it. But yeah, that sounds like there's some positive stuff there. Crash Bandicoot, who's not excited about that? And of course, we got to get an idea of where Jack sits on Chicken Run 2. So that was good fun as well. So there's plenty in there. There's plenty in that episode. And if you want, head back into the archives, download old episodes, find out what else we've spoken about throughout the pop culture experience. You can do that on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, Head over there, subscribe to the channel. You get updates when something new appears. It's fantastic for everyone involved, including me. Leave a review. Give us a star rating, whatever you want to do. But other than that, guys, have a good week. We'll keep it there. I'll talk to you soon. And, yeah, that's about all I've got for you. Have a good week.
This has been a Cheeky Leprechaun production.